Hey everyone, so we're going to get into some data today. I know everybody loves data. My producer, Nicole, I know you love when I go into data because you're very analytical and oriented with a lot of numbers. Is that right?
Love it, love it.
That's what I figured. All right, cool. Everyone, so what we're going to tackle first is inventory data. So this is important for right now. Again, what we're seeing in all across the board, United States, is very low inventory. So one of the first things that we're going to talk about is new listings. So right now, new listings are well below last year's pace, which was already, low to begin with. 2022 was very low because that was when we saw the Fed go from January to December, a 2 3/4 to 3% rate, all the way up to like 6.5, 7 in 1 year. So as that progression of the interest rate, raising, we started to see inventory very slowly start to shrink. And to tackle or to, go into expireds, listings that expire, we're starting to see, like right now, it's, what is it, Nicole, May 5th, 4th?
4th?
I should know that. I don't even know what date is. So today's May 4th. What you're seeing today are listings that originated in like November, December of 2022. They didn't sell, so now they're expiring now. So this is a good barometer for it. So first things first, new listings are down 22.3% compared to March of 2022. So that's almost a quarter of the inventory is just now gone from last year. More concerning for that, our new listings are down 20%, so a fifth from March of 2020, which is when the world was in complete calamity and beginning to lock down from the pandemic. So from then, which there was very little, very, very little activity, we're still down 20% from there. So that's a big number. So what does that tell us? That tells us right now that sellers are not selling, and the main reason they're not selling is if they sell, and you do sell, you're leaving, 3, 2 7/8, 3%, 3.5%, and you're going to then originate a 6.5% rate. So it just doesn't make sense for them to do it. Now, again, there are sellers that have life events, and those are the ones that, us as agents and brokers, we need to find them. That's our job because they do need to sell property. They're getting a divorce. They're relocating for a job. They may have had somebody pass in the family. They're downsizing because the kids are out of college. They don't need a 5-bedroom home anymore. They're upsizing. Their family's growing. They're going to have children. Those are people that have life events. They need help. It is our job to help them, and we must ask the right questions to find out if those people that we're talking to, those sellers, are having life events and need to actually sell the property. So that's our job as agents and brokers. So let's get into spring inventory. Now, this is all National Association of Realtors information. This one came over the other day. Buyers can't buy if sellers don't sell. And I love the title because it's very true. So I highlighted a few things. Let's talk about them. Zillow, God bless Zillow. We love them. Because people love looking at the Zestimate and thinking that that's the value of their property, which couldn't be farther from the truth. Zillow estimates new listings were down 22.3%. We already talked about that. But here's something that George Raitu of Keeping Current Matters. I do follow them on Instagram. They actually have some good information. Spring is generally when housing markets, it's critical in spring because it accounts for the largest share of new listings, and that's true. Most people list in the spring. Generally, when I advise sellers, I'll always advise them to try and list a few weeks before everybody else does. You don't want to be a small fish in a big pond. You want to be a bigger fish in a small pond. So if you list a few weeks before that, if you're in the Northeast, generally sellers will wait until, that really warm week of weather, 50s, 60s, and that's when they're like, all right, winter's gone, winter's over, and we're going to be, selling. So or listing, I should say. So most sellers do that. I usually advise jump in there a few weeks before that, so you have all those buyer eyeballs on you before everybody else starts to jump into the market. So low inventory. So they're basically equating low inventory to high mortgage rates, and because of that, sellers aren't selling because they're going to be buying again into a higher rate, which we just went over. So now, here's something interesting. There are some markets that are seeing inventory rise, and we had Jessica Nelson on, mega agent down in Houston. We interviewed her. In her market, new listings are up almost 4% compared to a year ago, but they are down almost 6% from March of 2019, which was really, I guess, one of the, I don't know if it's the height of the market, but when things were going very well. So Washington State, brokers added almost 8,000 new listings during March across 26 counties. That is down 30%, almost 30% year over year, but it's up 51% from February of this year. So for what, I don't know what's going on in Washington State, but they are seeing an inordinate number of listings hit the market. So Austin, Texas, another big market that we know of. Jessica also talked to us about Austin. They are up about 4.4 months of supply. That's basically what we call an absorption rate. If you stop listing property today, how many months of inventory do we have on the market? 4.4. That's actually a very high number. So Austin is experiencing that right now. Now, that's also led to a price drop of nearly 15% year over year. So 2023 to 2022, Austin's prices have dropped almost 15%. So interesting there. Buyers have power. So the long and short of all this is buyers that are out there, the ones that are out there looking to purchase property, they have power right now because they know that there's not many of them out there. So the ones that are out there, they can kind of cherry pick and choose which properties they want and structure their offers as such. So interesting information there. Okay, now we'll get into, this was an interesting article that I saw, and I wanted to, kind of share it with everybody, my audience. More buyers believe they can find an affordable home. So this was interesting when I read this. So what it's saying is, regardless of what the interest rates are, more buyers that are out there, they're not experiencing buyer fatigue, which generally meant them making offers on property. There's multiple offers, they're losing, and they get so tired of that, they just leave the market and just keep re-renting. And that's a big reason, just to sidebar, that's a huge reason why rents right now are through the roof, is because the buyers that are out there, they're making offers on properties. And this is obviously market specific, whatever specific market you're talking about, Austin, New York, Baltimore, Chicago, New York, wherever. Buyers are out there. They make offers. They're not getting the property. They just say, forget it. I'm just going to re-rent. And they pull themselves out of the market and into the rental market. Well, when you have a mass influx of people doing that, of course, now you have a competitive rental market, and owners that are not subject to rent control can charge whatever they want. So that's what we're seeing in some of these markets, 20%, 30%, 40%. Some of these markets are over 50% your rent increases. It's crazy, but this is a big reason why. Buyers just got tired, said, forget it. I'm going to re-rent, stay where I'm at, wait for the market to, quote unquote, come down, and then we'll buy again, which I don't advise because, again, you're just going to have what you had in 2020 and 2021. Everybody bidding on properties when the market comes down and rates come down, and now you're going to have the same scenario. You're not going to be able to get properties unless you overpay for them. So this was interesting. More buyers believe they can find an affordable home. The share of buyers who say most available homes are affordable to them doubled between the end of 2022 and the first quarter of this year. What an interesting statistic. Buyers in the West had the biggest jump in affordability expectations compared to other regions. So in the West, Washington State, which we just talked about as far as inventory, and obviously Oregon and California and places like that, Vegas, Arizona. That's they consider that the West. A separate report finds that plenty of people are still looking at other parts of the U.S. for more affordable homes. So buyers are becoming increasingly optimistic about their ability to afford a home. It's very interesting. What that's going to say is that that's going to fuel demand later in the year. So we're in May. This is quarter two. Quarter two going to be coming to an end soon. Probably mid to end quarter three, quarter four, I'd say you're going to start to see demand come up because these buyers are getting very confident that they can afford property. So it's good news. National Association of Home Builders. I actually was at a seminar. What's today? Nicole? What's today?
Thursday the 4th.
Thursday. Okay. So I was. I know. Stop laughing. I was at this is how, sidebar, like my day in life these last few weeks has just been like this huge whirlwind between going on dates and prospecting and trying to get it's just been nuts. And I feel like I haven't had 2 or 3 days consecutively where there's just nothing going on. Now, these are like uptown problems. Believe me, I realize that. But this is why,
Poor you going on dates.
What's that?
I said, poor you going on dates.
They're not. None of them are. Listen, I'll say
He's still single, everybody.
It's true. True statement. And not by effort. Let's say that. It's not that I'm not putting myself out there to try and meet someone. It's just for whatever reason it ain't working out. But we can get into dating and on that subject of app dating and all that stuff in another episode or another day. But that's why I'm asking you what day it is. So what they're saying is, and this is all right. So this is a huge stat. I got to get myself back here.
You went to that seminar.
I did. National Association of Home Builders, and it's a great just to get yourself out there as agents and network yourself. If you can put yourself in front of builders and architects and city officials, these are people you want to be in front of only because they can help you generate business. But there's got to be a value you can give to them. They're just not going to say, oh, hey, you're a realtor. We're going to start, time somebody comes to us, we're just going to refer you. There's got to be a value proposition from you to them. So I was at this seminar and they seem very optimistic about expectations moving forward for the market. They can't find land. So the first thing that they said, Nicole, is they can't find land to build. And the land that they're finding, unfortunately, these sellers are pricing the land so to where there's no the gap in spread for them to have profit. It's not there. So but they seem optimistic moving forward about it. And this stat will say that. This is interesting. National Association of Home Builders Trend Survey found that while nearly 3/4, 73%, said they could afford fewer than half the homes that were for sale on the market, that number's down from a record 87% at the end of 2022. So almost 9 in 10 people at the end of 2022 said, I can't afford what's out there. That's now down to 75%. So 7.5 out of 10 people, if you cut someone in half. 7.5 out of 10 people instead of 9 out of 10. So that's a big jump. So they're going to put it another way and say, hey, the share of buyers who now believe homes in their area are now more affordable doubled between the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. So buyer confidence is starting, man. It seems like it's starting to come about. And change in buyers' attitudes tend to make a big difference in, when people try to get home ownership. So, look, your interest rates right now are at your average. I know people tend to think that 3% average, 4%. It's not. It is not. If you Look at the average over the last 40 to 50 years per Freddie Mac. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Your average interest rate is almost 8%. It's like 7.75%, 7 7/8. That is your average interest rate over the last 40 to 50 years per Freddie Mac. That is not my opinion. That is a fact. So to think that your average interest rate, you're going to wait till they come down to 3%, if you're a buyer on the sidelines, it's not prudent. You're not going to, if you want home ownership, that's not the way to go about doing it. The best way to do it is if you want something, you go out and you get it. You're never going to be able to time the market. It's not. If you have a need and the need is there, you want to own a home because, again, your family's getting bigger. Your family's, your kids are out and you want to sell and get something smaller, buy something smaller. Like, how long, there's no, how do I say this? There isn't a tangible endpoint to where you're going to say to yourself, all right, the rates are going to hit this, and if they hit this, then I'm going to go and get it. You have no way of knowing if that's ever going to happen. That could be 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. You're going to literally wait that long as your life continues to move forward. If that's how you are, then, far be for me to tell you that that's wrong. It's not wrong. It's just you're delaying, happiness to yourself and your family. If the affordability, I'll say this, Nicole, if the affordability is there now, you can afford it now, but you're just going to wait because you want to, you think rates are going to go to 4%. I don't think it's a prudent way to go because you're delaying your own happiness for something you can have literally right now. All right. Here is something, again, very interesting. And this is across the board. I wrote here, across the board confidence. Slowing home prices and expected lower mortgage rates, which we're going to get into rates probably in another segment. In another segment. Slowing home prices and expected lower rates this year is going to increase demand, which we just went over. So demand. The good news is those rates are going to lead to more existing owners listing their homes. So because now, again, we talked about that gap. If you're a seller and you got 3%, 3.5%, you don't want to sell it and then buy something at 6 or 6.5. Understandable. Totally get it. You're basically just going to be breaking even with the profit you make and the money you have to put out and your monthly payment. So we understand that. But with rates, they're expecting rates to either stabilize and come down. Today, which we will get into again, Nicole, on another day, probably next week. But today, May 4th, the Fed raised the rate, but they put out the caveat that might be the last rate hike they're going to do for a while. So it's good news for buyers. All of this news is basically telling us that confidence is rising, buyer confidence is rising, and overall market confidence is rising. So these are good statistics. These are good things to know. One of the numbers that I was looking at here, this is interesting, is that what do home buyers look at when they're looking to purchase a home? They're always looking at taxes and weather as to where they're going to move to. So the Northeast, when people move out of the Northeast, they're generally moving south or they're moving west because the weather's better there. And in the Midwest, taxes are very, very affordable. We know that in the Northeast, taxes are insane. So that's reasons why buyers do it. So interesting statistics regarding inventory. Now, last one I wanted to go into, and we talked about this in a previous episode, 2006 to 8 versus now. And this was an interesting article that I saw that came out, and I wanted to go over this one with everybody. Differences. Now, this article came out April 29th, I want to say. We filmed our episode about this, the differences, a month or two ago. So this was from Realtor.com, so NAJAR, National Association of Realtors. The good news about this article is it supports what we went over a month and a half to 2 months ago, the differences between the two. And they talk about a very, very important stat, which is inventory. And I thought that was a very pertinent difference between 08 and now. And we're going to get into that right now. So Just like in the mid, so here's the first sentence. Just like in the mid 2000s, experts are adamant that the correlation between the housing market, correction, I should say, the correction in the housing market is simply that. It's a correction and not a catastrophe, like it was in '08. And they're comparing the two and saying, back then, the housing bubble burst mainly because the inventory, there was these builders were building, like getting these huge tracts of land, building hundreds of homes, Vegas, Florida, Arizona, all of these places. And then when the market, did its correction and tanked, those properties were now sitting vacant. We don't have that problem right now. We don't have any inventory. So the demand is still up. So they're saying parallels can be drawn because of how quickly home prices have risen over the past few years, which is true. But again, the difference is builders and developers, they're not developing property at half the rate that they were last time in '06 and '08. So all of those homes that were new and nobody's living in them, they're new and waiting for someone to inhabit them. They're not there. So here's a very interesting stat. The most important difference between then and now is that there are many more buyers than there were homes available this time around. So the acute housing shortage likely will keep prices from falling off a cliff. It's less inventory. It's why 2023 is not 2008. So there's just less inventory. So prices can't fall off a cliff. So real interesting stuff here. Again, the Great Recession, there were plenty of available homes and no one to purchase them. So there were no buyers. So prices dropped 26% over 5 years for existing homes. Today, buyers are still willing to bid over the ask price for move-in ready homes in desirable neighborhoods, despite the financial challenges that they face. That is the complete opposite of what happened in '06 to '08. So, because they had all these new homes that they're not pre-existing, where people living in them. They're new. So we don't have that now. All of this is pre-existing. So it's just safer, and again, the mortgage crisis, we'll get into that too. That was another factor. Another reason why '06 and '08 is not this is lenders are now actually writing mortgages that, number one, people can afford, but number two, more importantly, they're being vetted. These buyers are being vetted. W-2 buyers are not taking out stated income loans. They're not taking out no income loans, things of that nature. So that's a huge difference. So the buyers that are out there right now are qualified to make the purchase. So big difference from '08 to now. So that's why we're not going to see. You'll see less defaults now than you would in '08. So that's our first episode on inventory. We will have the next episode going over rates and some different miscellaneous info. So make sure you follow us at the Daniel Mesrobian podcast on YouTube. You can also follow me on the socials and give us a comment. Let me know what you think about the data that I'm going over with you. If you have any opinions or something you want to review with me, please, again, comment. We love to have them. We love the interaction. We appreciate you guys, whether it's positive or negative. We just love the feedback. So on the socials, at Daniel Mesrobian, and we will catch you on the next episode.